Well, and this is a Rowany TV special. We're at Rowany Golf Club, and I'm sat with one of our most well-known favourite members, officer of the club through and through, is Mr. Bryn Jones. So, afternoon, Bryn.
Hello.
So, Bryn, you're a former captain of the club.
Correct.
Some years back, was it by any chance?
83 I was captain and I was president in 88.
So 1988 was a special year, obviously for a number of reasons, but one was that we had a very famous visitor to the club who was a friend of Nigel Mansell, who was a member.
Correct.
So tell us about that day.
Well, it started off with Greg Norman wanted to play with some of the club's officials, and I happened to be one of them because I was president in 1988, and I asked Nick Grounds to join us. So off we went playing golf at Rowany. I couldn't believe my luck being partnering Paul Grounds against Nigel Mansell and Greg Norman. So off we go, up the first, and Greg Norman had obviously never played here and never seen the course, and he drove the first green and came off there with an eagle. And then down we go and played round, and really when we came to the sixth was where I was gobsmacked with the way that Greg Norman was playing. He was only about 80 yards from the green with his tee shot, and he took a 6-iron out. And I thought, well, he's going to end up halfway down the field beyond the back of the green. And sure enough, he hit this 6-iron, and it climbed like Concorde and came to the pitch of its climb and dropped like a stone straight in front of the pin. I was amazed. I thought, Greg, what are you doing? I mean, that must be a sandwich for you from there. But no, he said, I'll show you how to do it. And he clipped this ball up in the air, dropped like a stone, and just in front of the pin. And the next occasion that I was noting from a Rowany Greens point of view was on the 13th. He took an 8-iron off the top tee and hit it, and it landed about 3-4 yards past the pin, expecting it to spin back. And of course it didn't. And he said, what's up with your greens? I expected that ball to spin back to be adjacent to the hole, and instead he ended at the back fringe, and he was explaining to us what we needed to do. He said, you've got a terrible amount of thatch in these greens, and they don't allow the ball to check. And he said, what you must do is to scarify them and scarify them and scarify them until there is a far different texture to the top layer of the surface. And that's one thing that registered with me, and we tried our best to make the greens play to the standards of the low handicappers who could perform this check ball playing type of game. And eventually we did get a greens moor which had scarifying blades, and of course we used it, and I think in all honesty the greens are in a far better condition from a top surface point of view than they were many years ago. And we eventually ended up on the 18th, and I hit a decent tee shot, and I tried to draw the ball with my second shot into the green, only for Norman to say, "Hey, the world isn't round enough for that ball to come back." Anyway, he'd never seen the course before, and he went round in 67, and he was relatively complimentary to the course and the condition of the course on that day.
And he got a big friendly welcome, no doubt.
Oh, he did. And we ended up in the clubhouse, and he said, "Is there any food on? Because Mansell's bloody starving me."
And we would have had Vic behind the bar in those days, wouldn't
in
we?
those days, yes, and he was full of it.
Steak and onion bat.
And he did provide Greg Norman with some tea, so he was well pleased.
Well, what a great testament there. So the success of the Rowany greens, which no one can argue. We've got some of the best greens, or the best greens on the island, and
I think
we've
have.
got a Greg Norman influence, and we've got Simon and Scotty topping and tailing it week in, week out, and
Yes.
it is a great putting surface that we've
Yeah.
got. So just tell me, like, you're a golfer through and through.
Mm-hmm.
How good a ball striker was he?
Incredible. I think I can relate to you that I watched him also playing at Castletown, and on the road hole in those days it was the 8th, and Greg Norman's tee shot strayed a little bit and he ended up on the road, and he decided that this wasn't out of bounds to him, so he played it off the road, and he was well down, and he took this iron and stuck it on the green, and Mansell shouted across to him, "You caught that a bit thin, Greg." "Well, as sure as hell I wasn't going to take a divot," he said.
Very skilled. I mean, he won a couple of majors, Open Championship.
Yes,
and
he won the
a world
Open.
star.
I think he ended up winning 89 competitions worldwide, but he had a serious lapse in performance, and he ended up, I remember watching him, if you watch the television on Sky, they have chronicles of a golfer.
I know where you're going. He nearly made it back when Harrington
That's right.
won.
And he was driving along to a golf course for a practice session on his own, and he said, "I pulled up and I laid back in my seat, looked up at the clouds and decided, well, I am going to try to get back to where I was," because he was world number one at one stage. And he sort of became at peace with himself, and he drove on to the practice ground that he was going to, practiced, and from then on he was on the way back. And it's a remarkable story, because many a person don't know what to do when they come to a lull in their performance. But he'd worked it out, and from then on he was on the way back, and he achieved many a championship win after that occasion.
And somewhere in his story is a trip to the Isle of Man, which is wonderful. And of course, we haven't really talked about Groundsy, who was the captain and no doubt a good friend of yours. And then we had Nigel Mansell on our doorstep, who brought a lot of colour, really, I think, and what have you to the course. And I mean, you've been a Rowany man through and through. What are the aspects of Rowany that you like?
It certainly was a working man's club. There was no side to anybody, and anybody that regarded himself as a toff was ridiculed, and we brought them down to our level. We had a lot of hard work going on in the early years. Anything up to 10, 15, 20 people would turn out and put their elbow or shoulder to the wheel, if you like. If you recall, we had irrigation installed, and there was anything up to 20 members with spades and picks and all the rest of it. We dug all the sprinkler holes around the greens and things like that to reduce the cost of the irrigation scheme, because we had to bear that. And we built tee boxes, we built all kinds of things.
Rowany continues in that vein, and like you love the course. So just share with me, what are your, I don't know, what's your favourite hole at Rowany? I know that I'm putting you on the spot there. So it's the eighth hole, and why is that? Is it?
Well, because it's scenic. You can see right out through Fleshick into Peel, and it can be a tricky hole because I've taken 5 woods down there and I've taken pitching wedges. It all depends where the wind comes from. And you can come off there with a 2, or you can come off there with something like a 6 or a 7, because you can...
We've all been there.
Yes.
Okay, and I'll just put you on the spot again. We've got some great golfers in the club, and we've had a number of island champions.
Yes.
And I think Rowany has been gifted with that.
Yes.
I mean, you just look at the wall, and we've got the gallery there with all the past winners. Tell me, the best ball striker. So it may not be one of the island champions, but someone who you've played against.
The one I'm most impressed with, and I think had he had the opportunity, he could have gone a long way, is Paul Lowy. I've been in his presence when he played the 5th. He took a driver and an 8-iron and a putt and came off with an eagle.
And there you have it.
538 yards or something.
There you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul, we know he's unique, and we've had a number of
I
golfers.
wish he would have had the opportunity to play and the funds behind him, that he could go on the UK circuit for longer, and I think he would have earned his keep on the circuit. He's the most impressive. The best ball striker, I think, is Andrew Kane.
Yeah, all day long.
Yeah,
all day long.
Yeah.
All day long. He's exquisite, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we won't ask you who the worst ball striker is. That would go on for hours. It could be.
It could be. I don't know. Me, most times.
Give over. I've seen your name in the prizes recently.
You've had my moments.
You've had a reasonable year.
Yeah, I've had my moments.
No, I've got to say, Bryn, well, thank you for sharing the
You're
Greg
very
Norman
welcome. I hope
story.
It's been of some use to you.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
I mean, Greg Norman is an absolute gentleman. He had these brilliant blue eyes and a big smile and a tremendous sense of humour. And he liked his lager.
Well, that's the secret. It could be Holtzy's lager.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go and have a pint, Bryn. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.